Okay, let's take a look at your plan of attack. How do you attack one of these kinds of questions? You know you've got 15 questions, and you have 5 different essays that you're going to need to attack. So, number 1, read. Number 2, note the problem. Number 3, note the differences between the answer choices. Number 4, use your process of elimination. And that leads to number 5, which is select. So let's take a little bit closer look at these. Reading the passage. What that does is give you the context. If you just jump in, usually, and try to answer a question, you can do that sometimes and you will be successful at it, especially when it's something that is wrong grammatically that just jumps out. But most of the time, it will be better for you to try and read the whole passage first. That gives you a context. It lets you know what the whole passage is about, gives you something to refer to. So read the whole passage and then go back and note where the mistakes are. Well, how do you do that? They've actually given that to you because they underline the places where they want you to note. So note those, then go over to the answer choices and see, okay, what's the difference between these? Because remember, this is an objective kind of test. There is no subjectivity to it. There is a right and a wrong answer. In fact, out of the 4 answer choices, 3 of them are incorrect for specific reasons. So you'll be able to knock out certain of the answer choices probably right off the bat. And that leads into the 4th one, which is process of elimination. By the process of elimination, you start to eliminate questions or answer choices until you're left with 1. Okay, the good news about the ACT English is that it's a grammar test. Basic grammar, just like math, has correct and incorrect. They don't like to call it right and wrong, although for our purposes it is right and wrong. They don't like to call it that sometimes, but it is correct and incorrect. Just like math, there are rights and wrongs. They're going to be right down the middle of the grammar world. They're not going to go off on tangents, things that sometimes are accepted, sometimes aren't, and you've heard that ever since you first started in grammar school, that many of the grammar rules, the best rule about grammar is that there are no rules about grammar. Well, that's true sometimes, but there are rules that are rules all the time, and those are the ones they're going to test. So you know that you're right in the middle of the ballpark. Don't get persuaded to think that, oh, there's something esoteric over here that they're testing or something on this side that they're testing. They're going to be right in the middle of the ballpark on their questions. Now, the bad news about the ACT grammar, and that is oftentimes your ear can be a guide, but sometimes it'll steer you wrongly. And now here's an example of that. Hopefully you'll do well on the test. That sounds right, it sounds good, it sounds correct, it's something we say all the time. We use hopefully in that way all the time, but actually for standard written English it is not correct. You have to say the more stilted version of it is hoped that you will do well on the test. So sometimes your ear will steer you wrong. So the good news is that the grammar is right down the middle. The bad news is that you can't always depend on your ear. You actually do have to depend on the rules of grammar.